That's correct. I'm Alamonte on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center, cloudy. Little snow by the afternoon. High 38, 2 to 4 inches of snow overnight, low 20. 25 at O'Hare under sunny skies. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com, keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions.
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Well, a socialist won the Democrat New Hampshire primary last night, but socialists in Venezuela are walking away from socialism.
Oh, no.
To some extent, in order to maintain their grip on power. After decades of dominating its oil industry, the Venezuelan government quietly surrendering control to foreign companies in a desperate bid to keep the economy afloat and hold on to power, reports the New York Times. Yeah, the power and legitimacy of the government rests on its ability to control the oil fields in Venezuela, the backbone of the country's economy, and use their profits to buy off enough people's support. But they got a real problem down there in Venezuela, you may have heard, with the performance of the economy that's cratered and sent 4 million people fleeing to Colombia, as we talked about over the holidays.
Yes, and thanks to all who contributed to Food for the Poor.
And so now that, why would you give up control to private enterprises if you're the most efficient operator of a company? That's one of those conundrums I'd love to ask Bolshevik Bernie. Also this, and this is relevant to the Democrat primary here too, since I believe all the candidates, maybe with the exception of Klobuchar, are in agreement that fossil fuel executives should be imprisoned in this country.
She does not agree with that.
Well, that's what they've done in Venezuela. Perhaps we forgot. A special envoy, top envoy to Venezuela, Elliot Abrams, said that 6 Citgo employees who've been detained by the Venezuelan government since 2017 without trial have been transferred to a prison in Caracas.
Oh, my gosh.
So, I mean, I know what they're going to say, right, as James Freeman writes in the Wall Street Journal. No, of course, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about, the America's Democrat Socialists. It isn't? You've been asked about criminal prosecution of fossil fuel executives just for being fossil fuel company executives, and you've said yes. You're talking about taking over, just for starters, taking over approximately 1/50 of the economy by eliminating private health insurance. So what do you mean this isn't representative of what Democrats in this country want to do? For more on the topic, we're pleased to be joined by Steve Moore, noted economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, and author of Trumponomics, Inside the America First Plan to Revive Our Economy. Hey, Steve, how about that? Venezuelan socialists giving up socialism.
Hi, guys. Good morning, guys. It's interesting because whenever I do these debates about capitalism versus socialism, which are very hot on college campuses now, and at least half the kids are for socialism. And, I'll point to Venezuela or Cuba or North Korea or East Germany or whatever it is. And they'll say, oh, no, it's not that socialism we're talking about. We want the good socialism. That's like saying, we want the good venereal disease, not the bad venereal disease.
Exactly.
But I think that Maduro, if that story is true, that they're actually privatizing some of their energy industry, you put it very well, Dan. He is clinging by his finger nails to power as it slips away, and he's trying anything to hold on. Because look, that's what this is all about, folks. I mean, anybody who actually believes, Democrats care about poor people, they care about minorities, they care about education. No, they care about one thing. They care about power. And it is interesting to me, and I have to say somewhat distressing, although my first choice, obviously, as someone who wants Trump to be reelected, is for Bernie Sanders to be the Democratic candidate. But part of me just thinks, God, what is wrong with our country? That
I know.
almost 30% of the Democratic primary voters went out and voted for a wacko socialist who is, you said it very well, Dan, all of the crazy things that he wants to do. You didn't add that he wants to, return tax rates to 50, 60, 70%.
Right. Well, he also wants to eliminate all student debt and free college for everyone, and that's why he's attracting the millennials and, the kids that are still in college.
Well, first of all, everyone knows the unfairness of that policy, that kids who the pampered go to college should be, people who didn't go to college, you have to pay more taxes to pay for kids who do. That's an injustice. Number two, I think Republicans have really fumbled this college tuition issue, because the way I like to put it is the single greatest scam in America, by a mile, is how much colleges and universities are charging our families. It is outrageous. And every college, I wish Trump in the State of the Union had just issued a plea to every college and university to cut their tuition in half. They could easily do it. You guys know I went to the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana back in the early 80s.
And what
My
was
tuition
it?
was
$4,000 a year?
No, it was about $1,000 a semester, a little less than $1,000 a semester. Now it's well over $10,000 a semester, right? These are ridiculous. So they have a son who went to Northwestern with $72,000 a year. That's robbery. It's thievery. And there's no justification for it. The average tenure professor is teaching 4 hours a week, and they're getting $250,000 a year. The whole system has to crash. We need accountability in higher education. I do feel for families. The worst thing you can do is, saddle a kid who graduates from college with $100,000 of debt. It's ridiculous.
Well, right. And there was actually a pretty good analysis by an economist at FEE looking at the opportunity cost, something that we don't talk enough about. And basically, the average student right now coming out of college with $30,000 in debt, the opportunity cost of paying down that $30,000 loan is $1 million in savings that you could have had if you were investing in that same loan payment in a 401k rather than paying back the federal government.
Well, that's right. And Dan, here's another way of thinking about this for parents who have, juniors or seniors in high school. If you're paying, because I told my kids, look, I'll pay your college education, then you're on your own. But, let's say your kid goes to, let's say Villanova. Villanova is like $68,000 a year. So you have to wonder, would it be better for a kid to go to that school for 4 years, or to just say, hey, here's a $250,000 check, start your life? You really have to start wondering, gosh, is this what? Now people, look at how much people who go to Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, do that people who don't. Well, that's because they're smart to begin with. It's not like they're getting some kind of super education at these schools. Look, I'm not demeaning a college education, but when it's that expensive, you have to wonder, is that really? Look,
it can't be totally. It can't be totally inelastic, exactly. And I want to address another example of economic illiteracy here. This comes to us from NBC's Katie Tour, the former girlfriend of Keith Olbermann. She apparently hosts some kind of show on MSNBC where she blathers on, says dumb things like this. Yeah. She said the strong economic...
By the way, I have to just interrupt you for 1 second.
Yeah.
I think it's been at least 20 years since I've watched a network news show. Seriously, I can't remember the last time. So I don't even know who these people are. But go ahead.
You're not missing much. But there are some people that listen to them, and you also sort of just need to highlight. She's this is the I guess the latest argument against the strong economic numbers touted by Trump and the White House.
Okay.
She said the economy is not working for the individual who spends up to 360 months paying off his car loan. Do you know of any 30-year car loans that are being off?
Is it a 30-year car loan?
She said 360 months paying off your car loan. What car loan is that?
Dan, you're way behind the times. You don't understand. The Teslas cost $120,000. You need a 30-year.
You get a subsidy for it. Yeah. 360 months paying. This is the common touch that you get from the Beltway big government press corps. They're so in the position of the working man or woman struggling to make it by. They're very worried about that 30-year car loan that people have.
Yeah, because they have Porsches and they have Teslas and they have Beamers, and most Americans aren't buying those kind of cars. They can't afford them. But the media is so out of touch with the way real Americans live, and I think that's the thing that I really learned working on the 2016 campaign. When you would go to the middle of Pennsylvania or Ohio or West Virginia or Kentucky, and all these people. I mean, it was so strange, Anthony. Like when I'd be in Washington, all these liberals would scratch their heads. I was like, "Gee, why are people so angry? Everything's so good in America." It's like you live in a bubble of Washington D.C. The rest of the country, Washington D.C. is rich, and the rest of the country has been getting poor, and they didn't really understand that because people in the media and people in government have no idea how most Americans now live. By the way, now you go to a lot of these towns in Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, and people are feeling a lot better about their life. So, and by the way, that's shown by that Gallup poll that showed 85% of Americans feel good about the direction of their life and their financial situation. That's a huge number.
All right. Speaking of money, President Trump released his budget earlier in the week. You wrote an article in USA Today, which Dan will tweet out, ustoday.com. What do you like about it? I mean, I know he's going to cut foreign aid, increase military spending, border wall funding. We obviously know the House isn't going to pass this, but is there something about it that piqued your interest?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, I'm really angry. Trump. All the headlines are Trump wants to cut foreign aid by 22%. And I have a big problem with that. We shouldn't be cutting foreign aid by 22%. We should be cutting it by 100%.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's the one set of programs that the American people totally want to get rid of foreign aid, and they're absolutely right. I've studied this issue for 30 years. You can't point to a single country ever that has developed because of U.S. foreign aid. It's like giving a welfare payment to people. We know that saps them their energy. I don't have a problem with if there's a hurricane or an earthquake where people need relief or humanitarian assistance. But this idea that we send billions and billions of dollars to these countries is outrageous. We got problems in Chicago, I think. We got problems in Detroit. We got problems in Cleveland. I'd much rather have that money stay home, but I don't know how you guys feel about it. But, I think it was Milton Friedman who once said, foreign aid is taking, money from poor people in the United States and giving it to rich people in foreign countries. And that's
are we paying our enemies so they don't attack us? I mean, what's the point?
Well,
right?
That's right. It's pride. These are actually, Amy, you are 100% right. I remember when I first started at Heritage Foundation back in 1983, and I was doing our first kind of fiscal budget, where we came up with proposals to slash the budget. And I asked my boss, I said, why are we giving $2 billion a year to Egypt? And then we're giving $4 billion to Israel. I mean, why are we doing that? And my boss said, it's very easy. We are giving $2 billion a year to Egypt, so they will not invade Israel. I mean, it's just a bribe payment. And, maybe if that's the purpose, maybe it makes sense. It's like any idea that somehow there's, all this money. We've given $50 billion to sub-Saharan Africa. Dan, is there any sign that's actually helped make those countries prosperous?
No, actually, there's a good book about that by George Ayete, who I know you know,
yep.
On how destructive that foreign aid has been actually.
It's
to
been
those
destructive.
countries.
It's actually hurt. And by the way, then you've got places like Hong Kong. How much foreign aid have we given to Hong Kong? Zero. And it's one of the most prosperous places on the planet. So there's no association whatsoever between foreign aid and helping, people who are hungry or starving in these countries. It doesn't work. We know what works. It's free enterprise and capitalism, not socialism, Dan.
All right.
Socialism,
all right.
capitalism.
Got it. And we got you down. So your favorite economist, Milton Friedman, AOC's favorite economist, Milton Keynes. Okay, so we got... All right, so we distinguish those two. We're just keeping a running tally there. So, Steve Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of the book Trumponomics. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Okay, guys, have a great week. Take care.
You too.
Yep, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It may not be stomach issues.
For me, it's intense gas, or pain, or diarrhea, sometimes all at once.